Hello, everyone, and welcome to another beautiful podcast with a very beautiful lady with a stunning voice, too. Yeah, I know, I've got this thing for voices. I like people that are clear and interesting, and this is, well, the thing is, I've only got one thing to go on, and that's voices, right? And the character, because I know nothing of these people. They're just strangers. So who knows? We may get into trouble this time because you never know what she's going to share with us. So, Mona Jones. Mona, welcome. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me in front of your audience. I love this.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We are lucky indeed. So what we're going to do is what we always do. I know, Audie, it's very boring. I'm just going to ask her, please share with us what you do to help people in your business, and then we'll go with the flow.
Okay, well, my name is Mona Jones, and I'm a certified hypnotherapist. So I help people around the world harness the power of their subconscious mind to get rapid, lasting, measurable change with their mind, which translates into a mind-body connection. And of course, when we change the way we think, we change the way we act. When we change the way we act, we change the way we live. And it is my privilege and my pleasure to help people recover from the stubborn symptoms of PTSD. I work with people who have ADHD and anxiety to be able to wrangle those things and make it work for you instead of controlling you.
Wow, well, there's a lot going on there, and obviously you help quite a few people. So let's find out where you come from. How many people just want to become a hypnotherapist? What made you go down that route?
You know, becoming a hypnotherapist was a late life decision for me. I have been doing it for about 13 years now. And I come from a background in finance, banking and finance. And I was in a networking group with a hypnotist. And every time she got up to do her, they call it the elevator introduction or the elevator speech, I would think, gosh, she is living my life. Like that should be my career. And when the real estate market in the United States crashed in 2008, I said, well, that's it then. I'm going to make the change. Now's my chance to get out. And so I studied and became a professional hypnotist. And I chose working with people with anxiety because it's something I relate to. And to see the difference that it makes is incredibly rewarding.
So where did the anxiety come from? Did it come from the financial institute that you used to work with, or did it go from before that?
Oh, yeah, no, that job didn't help. But actually, I come by it both through, I believe, through epigenetics, as well as that's just the way I'm wired. So I don't think I have trauma to speak of, although I was chatting with a therapist about some things that had happened in my life, and she said, oh my God, Mona, you have trauma. Really? Because I just thought it was a tough time. I didn't think of it necessarily as trauma, but I think people are just wired for anxiety. People who already have anxiety going into a trauma situation will experience it being exacerbated, of course.
Okay, so let's talk about this trauma situation. Obviously, you're so wide in you're quite a strong-minded person, quite straightforward, etc. So what most people would see as a trauma or a stage to get over their life, you just pick yourself up and you just go forward.
Yeah.
So just give an example of this trauma that you went through your life, and then we'll take it from there.
Well, I was bullied in grade school, and I think people underestimate the lasting damage that being bullied in childhood can carry. And I think like you could Google this, but I think the statistic for the suicide rate among people who were bullied in childhood, there's a definite correlation there. So not causation, but a correlation between a higher suicide rate among bullied kids. So, moving on from that, in adulthood, I experienced a terrible divorce, and some years later was remarried and lost a child early in pregnancy. And just keep going. And my parents were raised during the Great Depression, so they bring through epigenetics their own traumas. My mother lost her mother in childhood, and my grandmother lost her mother in childhood. So for I'm the first generation in 3 to be raised to adulthood by my mother.
Wow.
So there's some epigenetic trauma there as well.
Okay, so explain. You say about epigenetic?
Epigenetic,
Okay, well, I can't even, I can't even
that's
say it.
going down the rabbit hole with that one.
Well, come on, let's go down. This is what we're here for. We don't do the simple, easy things here. We go down the rabbit hole. Not too far, because we've only got so much time, but we do go there. So Let's go there. Let's start going there. What does that mean?
It is the emerging science of inherited trauma or inherited anxiety, inherited phobias and dislikes. It is potentially nature's way of preparing us to inhabit the world that our parents live in as we are born. So it's really, being, I should say, discovered or fleshed out right now, but that the psychological trauma for my grandmother to be raised without her mother is that she had to be her motto was suck it up, keep going, because there was no one to nurture her or to comfort her in her mourning. And her mother was replaced by a wicked stepmother, an abusive stepmother. So there was really no nurturing for her. So she was, understandably not such a nurturing mother, and had a lot of kids. And she died when my mother was 12. And my mother had 2 younger siblings, and so had to be finished being raised into adulthood by her sisters. And they were in mourning too. So there was a lot of suck it up there, that not only had they learned, from their mother, but had to be that for themselves or for each other. Is okay, yes, that's sad, but we have to continue on. And so unfortunately, I raised my kids with a suck it up mentality, and that is both good and bad. They're incredibly resilient people and solution oriented, because that suck it up philosophy leads them there. But it is a way of not being in touch with our feelings. And whenever we have suppressed feelings, it's gonna be in the subconscious, and like a damaged computer program, everything in our lives that interacts or intersects with those programs will become affected. So
That's interesting. No, and I totally believe that happens. This suck it up attitude, I think, is quite a positive thing if the balance is right.
If the balance is right.
And I'm not here to judge. There's no right and wrong. It's all to do with perspective, right? It really is. And we do the best that we can as parents. So, our parents, they bring something into the relationship with us, and so on and so forth, and it gets passed over. But you obviously realize when certain things aren't right, and you try to change as a mother. No one's perfect. I've done the same.
Thank you for that.
No, exactly. And I understand I've made mistakes, and I'm not perfect, but we look back on when our parents didn't do certain things correctly, and they tried their best. It's not to belittle them. They tried their best. And then we look at ourselves and we just think, all right, okay, well, I can do better there. And you do try. You stumble sometimes, and that's all part of the process, but we go forward, and we try to forward better relationships with our children. Right. So again, that's a rabbit hole. So I'm going to walk away from that situation. Otherwise, I'm going to go deep. And otherwise, listeners, I knew this was a conversation could easily go into hours. But I'm going to try. I try my best not to speak too much. So this is about Mona. So Mona, so what we're going to do, I'm going to go back. Obviously, there was a situation where you've got your strength, and it shows in abundance. We have our highs and we have our lows where we are vulnerable, and that is okay to be. But where does that strength come from, going way back in days as a child? Yes, I know it comes from your mother, partially, but also, where does those other resilient traits of yourself come from?
I think resiliency comes, as you said, not only from my mother's, suck it up instructions, but whenever I am working with a client and in myself, whenever we are looking at the big picture, we're looking at a higher power, we're looking at, something beyond ourselves. If we start thinking that everything is on our shoulders and we are alone in solving our problems, then it becomes difficult to be resilient. We'll get worn down before we can develop our wings. So, tapping into a higher power, definitely.
So that's interesting, because yes, I do believe in higher power because I'm Buddhist myself. But I've always believed also in taking ownership of anything that happens towards us. Even though, yes, we can understand that our parents did A, B, and C, and our partners did A, B, and C, and we can go on and we can go forth. But if you don't take ownership of the situation, then obviously we're in a position where we cannot really have the control that we need, because remember, it's somebody else's fault. And if it's somebody else's fault, what can I do about it? So I understand the faith. Faith is very important. There's no two ways about it. But how do you integrate that with taking ownership?
Taking ownership and faith go together. First becomes from the examination of what was my role in the story. So obviously with the child that I lost in pregnancy, when I look like, what was my role in the story there? Was I taking care of my health? Was I making my medical appointments? Was I, doing everything I could to bring a healthy child into the world? And the answer is yes. I could, without a question, say that. So there really is the ownership there of what I did right. But the big picture or my faith leans towards, one of the prayers that I had was, if the child wasn't going to be healthy, because it was a late in life pregnancy, if the child wasn't going to be healthy, to spare, myself and the child, the struggle that I observed in my lifetime of that. And so that the pregnancy didn't last, told me that the baby was not healthy to go the distance. So that there was more purpose to that is what I look for next. So with my faith, I say, all right, well, what was the purpose? Why did I have to suffer in this way? And as you may have learned from your own meditations, that when you sit quietly with yourself and just ask, the answers come to you. And whether you believe they come, from the outside in or the inside out, the answer was, that was the universe showing me that it's possible to conceive a child that late in life naturally for me. And sure enough, a few months later, I was pregnant again. And today she is 18 years old and a beautiful, resilient tiger.
Hold on a minute. Did you not say you lost a child at late in your lifetime? Right, listeners, let me say, if you're not watching the video version of this, right, and you're listening to this, I believe she is lying, because she looks so young, and I cannot believe it. She looks amazing. So she says, 18 years ago, really?
Yeah.
My God. I'm not.
And she's my baby. I have older kids, so.
Oh, there you go. All right, the fountain of youth. But that's going to be a private session between me and her to find out, what keeps her young. That's that secret I want to myself. Right. Okay. So, saying all of that, you're very resilient. You're very strong, and obviously that's to do with your mother, and also to do with yourself going through certain difficulties. Now, I know that you are ADHD, is that correct?
Yes.
And how did you come about that? Have you recently, late in life, known you as ADHD, or is that early in life? Either or either?
Late in life. So when I look back through the lens of ADHD, it's like, yes. So I was absolved. I was able to absolve myself of what I thought was poor character or laziness or bad. I mean, there's that inner conflict of saying, I'm a good person. Like, why do I do these things or why do I not do these things? So in my hypnosis training, I hold a certification for hypnosis for people with ADHD. And in the beginning of my career, I worked primarily with kids and teens. I now work with people of all ages, but in the beginning, my marketing focus was to kids and teens. And they would come in with their diagnosis for ADHD and what their symptoms and struggles were. And I would read their paperwork and think, oh my God, this is, oh yes, okay, wow, this is what's wrong with me. But it isn't wrong, it's a superpower. And I have to, it's so kind of like that shopping cart, or I think you call it a trolley, right, with the one wheel that goes like this, and you're trying to push it, and the one wheel, that's how my ADHD is for me. 3 wheels work fine, and the one is always messing things up. But when I am able to manage my symptoms, then I am, it's my superpower.
Okay, so let's break down the superpower. What makes it a superpower? And give us about 2 examples of what this superpower looks like.
Well, one of them is, many ADHDers can really quickly put together patterns. So we can make predictions that make us seem almost like a psychic, or certainly very wise, but what we're really doing is spotting patterns. And in the work that I do, spotting and just having as a second nature now, the understanding of these patterns in human behavior helps me get my clients to resolution very quickly. Most of them can resolve just about any problem they bring to me in 5 hours worth of sessions. And talk about life-changing. It's a combination, not only of the power of the hypnotic arts, but my ability to recognize what it is they're going to need in order to experience profound change.
Okay, so now you've had the late diagnosis of ADHD, and you've had the aha moment, which most people do, right? And now you've got the power of hindsight. Where did it all begin? Now you've got the power of hindsight. You're looking at the child of Mona Jones, and you're looking at her thinking, yes, you used to do this at this age, and now that makes sense. How far does that go back with the hindsight that you can see the first? Was it in your crib? Or was it when you was toddling? Or was it when you was in your teens? What? Just give us some examples, and I'm sure your parents would have something to say about that too.
I think when I look back, there's this moment I must have been in 4th grade when you learn long division. And most kids that have ADHD struggle to have good grades. They're above average intelligence, but the struggle with good grades is from lack of focus and lack of commitment to do the homework and so forth. And I was sailing along just fine because I love school. People with ADHD typically have one subject that they just get lost for hours in. I love reading. I love learning. If I win the lottery, I'm going back to school for the rest of my life because I love it. But this one moment in 4th grade when we're learning long division, I looked around the room and I was so completely lost. I had no idea. I was following along, and then all of a sudden it was like a foreign language. And I looked around, and kids that were struggling normally in class were happily getting their long division answers correctly. And I thought, I don't understand what happened. It's like I left the room and came back in the middle, and everyone is. So I ended up in tears. I went to the nurse's office and I faked that I was sick so I could go home. And my mother was on to me. She knew something was up because she also had ADHD, I believe. And because there is a hereditary component to it. And so she's seeing this pattern of behavior for me, and she very quietly gave me lunch and, checked for fever and so forth. And then she sat next to me at the lunch table quietly and then said, okay, now tell me why you're really here. And so I told her, but in tears, and she took out some pencil and paper and showed me long division, one step at a time. But from that moment forward, I struggled with math. Never got a handle on it because math requires that focus where you are able to really, get every step down. If you skip a step, you're never going to get the right answer. So But I have a client is a math genius, ADHD math genius. Perfect score on the math portion of the college
I'm going to
entrance
stop you.
exams.
Hold on. I'm going to stop you there. You said you were struggling with maths, but wasn't you in finance?
Oh yeah, but you could use a calculator for that.
What, you cheated? Mona, you cheated?
Oh,
Really?
Goodness. When you got people's money, they don't. There'll be none of that. No, there's templates and formulas. I mean, you put it into the program, and the program calculates everything for you. You do have to have proper data entry, which I do quite well. But yeah, no, I oh goodness, me in algebra, I had straight A's and a D in algebra.
Yeah,
that would have been. Yeah.
No, my sister's a genius when it comes to that. She is a genius when it comes to maths. I'm the opposite. I'm the tech guy, for sure. That's really interesting. So the math side of it, you struggled in, and then what beyond that? Because it wasn't just maths that gave you the aha moment.
Well, I look back at blurting. I was still blurting in my 40s.
What's that? Hold on. What's that?
Blurting, like you just talking while someone else is talking, or relating to a point someone's trying to make. You sort of hijack the sentence, not meaning to. That it just comes out sort of random like that, because it just sort of jumps out of you, I would say. So I look back at that. When
did you lose the skill for blurting then, and started having the skill for pausing, taking effect, start a conversation?
I don't know, if you ask the people around me, they may say I still do it.
Really?
I like to think I'm better at it now because I'm aware of it. And with all change, awareness is the first step toward change. Whether it's addiction or behavioral changes, whatever it may be, is having an awareness and catching yourself is better. So I've learned these kind of filters to activate my subconscious mind to throw a filter up before that blurting can happen. And one of them was, did they ask for your help? Are they asking for your help right now? And so then I can say, no, not really, no. And it's like, then let them finish talking.
It's actually quite a work of genius. That's something very simple but very effective at the same time. And I can see how that works massively. How did you come across that process? Did someone talk to you about it and say use this process, or did you come up with it?
Just working with clients in my hypnosis practice. There are a lot of mind hacks you can use. One of them for anxious thoughts is to just tell your subconscious mind, yeah, we're not doing that today. When you use the word today, there's the implication that you'll do it tomorrow. So the subconscious mind will settle down because it thinks you have addressed the issue for now. And then tomorrow, when it brings it back up again, you can say, yeah, we're not going to do that today. So every day is a new day to not do that.
I see that.
To kind of catch a spiral before it gets going.
No, I can see that, Mona. You're not trying to hypnotize me right now, because they're really good tips. You're not subliminally me trying to do something with my mind map, are you?
No, these ones are just mind hacks. Nice.
Oh, are they? Okay. Then I'm safe then. That's okay.
Yeah.
Totally. Right. Okay. So we've got that sorted out from that point of view. So you've been disciplined enough to make sure that you pause before jumping in. Because you haven't been doing it with me, so that's great.
It's very hard. I'm sweating.
How are you? Oh,
yes,
yeah. As long as you're sweating over here, don't sweat over here. You sweat over there. Yeah, I get it. It must be hard. It's like a minefield. What else do you struggle with? So we've got a situation that you struggle with stopping, and also with the math side of it. But what other things that you find with the ADHD affect you? And I'm not getting to the stage where everything is negative, but I'm trying to put things in perspective so people understand how challenging having ADHD, but it doesn't mean you cannot be successful. I'm showing people that, yes, it does get difficult. It can be difficult. It can be extremely difficult, but it doesn't mean you cannot be successful. You obviously are successful, and you've gone through certain stages in your life, and not just from a business point of view, but also from a personal point of view, relationships, etc. And you still come through it. So what other things that have been challenging when it comes to the ADHD?
The ADHD brain is capable of pulling it. One of the things that leads to such disorganization and overwhelm is the ability to pull in information simultaneously from multiple sources and be focused on it. So with a neurotypical brain, you focus on something and sort of block everything else out to a certain extent. But with the ADHD brain, everything is at the same volume and the same level of intensity, and that leads to overwhelm and not knowing where to put the focus. So one of the things is, if I'm talking to someone, I can notice very unimportant, inconsequential details about something. Like I might be talking to someone who I have a long relationship with, and I notice there's a little bit of a different pronunciation in their words, and I'm thinking, did she have dental work done that made that sound? It's like a little lisp. It's not a lisp, but I've known her for 20 years and she doesn't have a lisp all of a sudden. She does have a lisp. Where did that come from? Why is that like that? Is she okay? Maybe I should ask her about it. Maybe I should not ask her about it. And meanwhile, she's like, you know what I mean? I'm thinking, oh golly, what did she just say? What was she talking about? Because I focused on the wrong thing, not wrong, the unimportant thing in the conversation. Now, the upside, now, everything that I'm telling you can be negative, but it can also be positive.
Of course.
I was in a business group with some wonderful women for many years. And one of them sitting next to me, she would talk to me. And I noticed she had this little kind of mark on the side of her cheek that sits next to me. And the next week, I would see her every week. And the next week I saw her and that mark was still there. I'm thinking, maybe it's a blackhead. Maybe it's a pimple. Maybe it's not a freckle or a mole, because that was not there in all the years I've known her. And so finally one day I thought, well, my friend, I'm like, I am the mole police. And there's a mark on your cheek that wasn't there a month ago. And for the past few weeks, it's been there, which is too long for like a pimple or something. So she went to check it out and it was cancer.
Oh, wow.
And she said, I credit you for saving me, because I would have let it go, thinking, oh, it's just a beauty mark or a birthmark that's, or a mole that's showing up from aging or sun damage. But it was cancer. So I'm thinking, well, score one there.
Well done.
Paying attention to details that really
of course
matter. But in this case, it did matter for her. So, so that's why I say ADHD is my superpower, is for every struggle it gives me. The flip side of that is it can be used for good, for, blurting can be irritating to the person trying to speak, but in a boring situation, it can make it more lively and more people feel inspired to jump in and sort of steer the conversation away from, utter boredom.
You're totally right. And again, it comes down to perception, doesn't it? It's how you frame things, which is, and a lot of people here are listening who have ADHD, are thinking it's a pain in the ass, really. It's really negative. And whether you have dyslexia, autism, etc., but it is how you frame it. I used to think it was a pain in the ass, to be honest, because I had problems focusing at school. I had problems with maths, etc., and lots of other things to do with that. But what I realized, which is what you were talking about, to deal with patterns, I'm able to, and I've always had this gift when I'm listening to people, to see the patterns in the things they are saying, to see the patterns in the things that I see. So when I was having a conversation, it was very easy for me to be quite... I had a lot of empathy. I always had done, but it was a situation I could see a way to resolve a situation very quickly. I only realized in just the last year and a half that what you call is a superpower, because I was able to sit down with clients and resolve an issue and very fast. Sometimes I knew why, and other times I didn't. I just came up with the answer because I saw you see patterns.
Yes.
And then unfortunately later on in my life, I then accepted what I had as a gift.
Yes.
I never did before.
Yeah.
And once I did that, then I started resolving the issues I had in my life and taking on the journey of becoming better at the skills I did have that I didn't appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I totally resonate with you, Mona. It's the aha moment is the aha moment. You just don't understand when you accept what you have.
Yeah.
And that goes for anything in life. If you have anything that's negatively happening in your life, there's a reason for it. And it's for you to reframe and say, why has this happened to me?
Yes.
I don't believe anything is a punishment. I think it's just, as a Buddhist, you have cause and effect.
Yeah.
You did this one thing, and because you did it, that happened. It's not a punishment. It's just you took a path, and the path was wrong. And that's what happens when you step into a hole. So you learn not to step into that hole next time. Anyway, again, I divert and I too much. This is not the podcast of Eli Devonte. It is the podcast to speak to Mona Jones. So,
but I will dovetail off of what you were saying about seeing it as a good thing. When I work with kids and teens that have ADHD, the pattern that emerges is that they all are above average in intelligence. And when you're used to skipping a step and being lost, a child can only assume it's because they're dumb or stupid. When it's quite the opposite, it's just that they've forgotten an important step because they zoned out during that time. The other pattern that emerges is they overwhelmingly think of themselves as not a good friend. That's that rejection sensitive dysphoria that many people with ADHD have. So that RSD kicks in. They think they're not a good friend, and yet they are regarded by others as a good friend to have, full of life, and and see, as you said, see the good in others, and to see possibilities where others don't. So a good friend.
Yeah, no, definitely, without a doubt. There's always an opportunity. And if you think like that, have gratitude, see the opportunities in life, and even the so-called negativities are opportunities. They're ways of learning how to be better at something. For you to be great at something, you have to make the mistakes before you become greater. There's no situation where you go to A to Z overnight. It doesn't happen like that. You have to make your mistakes, and those mistakes are there for a reason, as a learning curve, so you can become an expert in what you want to do in life. And I'm not just talking about business, but even when it comes to the relationships. When you have a new relationship and you're trying to get to know each other with your partner, you don't quite know what they eat. You don't know quite how they like to fly, or how they like to, what parties or theatres they like. It's all learning curve. So you make mistakes along the way, and then you start to learn, right? It's the same whole process. And this is what listeners, I'd like to say to people. Do you know what? It's the same thing. It doesn't matter whether it's in business, your personal life, your family life. It's the same process. It's all a learning curve. Mona, what do you think of that?
Absolutely. And in my practice, I have a number of clients that are wildly successful executives with ADHD. And be wildly successful, I mean multimillionaires. What I know, the pattern that I notice in them is they each have a business partner. So when I'm working with kids and teens, I'll say, so one person is the gas and the partner is the brakes. If we have one partner with only gas, the ADHDer is only gas, they're going to go right off the cliff. If we have one executive who is only the brakes, the company never goes anywhere. But we have one gas and one brakes, and together they go straight to the top.
And that's where the equilibrium comes into place. You're totally right. Yeah, exactly. Good partnerships, which is a great thing. And so I take it you've got good partnership within your life. Being an ADHD, you need the other side of you keeping you in check, and vice versa, right?
Yes, absolutely. So I think two ADHD partners, I don't see how that would work. You got to have the gas and the brakes. And so my husband is definitely the brakes.
That's great.
Great ideas. And I'll say, hey, babe, guess what? And he's like, no, it's going to cost money. When the sentence starts like that, it's going to cost money. Or I'll say, you know what I'm thinking? He's like, I'm terrified. I don't want to know.
So he goes, Mona, don't say anything. Say
Don't
nothing,
say.
please. Because every time you say something, it's costing us money.
It's an idea. It's going to cost me money.
Oh, God, oh, dear. Well, he knew what he was getting into. And well, you cost money, and there's a reason being. I'm sure he gets as plenty as much as you give. So and you have your ups and downs, but you're living a happy life, and I'm glad. And Mona, you seem to be living in a wonderful place at the moment. Yes, you have your ups and downs. You have your tough days, and you don't have to be ADHD to have your tough days. You can be neurotypical to have your tough days. But the thing is, when you've accepted who you are, when you have faith, because you have a huge amount of faith in the religious side of you, when you've got those combinations going, you're going far, especially with the business, and you're helping so many people at the same time. Yeah. So we're going to talk a bit about your business, a bit more about your business. So you decided you found a woman that was doing what you wanted to do, and she inspires you greatly.
Yes.
And when you had that thought, why did you exactly wanted to do that thing? And for what reason?
I listened to the way that she was able to change lives. And so although I was in, the money aspect of business, I had thought, when I was in school, I should have pursued, a master's or a doctorate in psychology to be a therapist. I think I would have enjoyed helping people in that regard. But hearing how the approach with hypnotherapy is through the subconscious mind, not the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, it was able to facilitate amazing changes in this a short amount of time, a fraction of the time. That I thought, yeah, that's the best of both worlds. So helping people in a fast, efficient way, which is, by the way, it's like a spa day for your brain. It's super fun, super relaxing, and yet wildly effective. And today in my practice, I have a number of referral sources that are therapists and medical doctors who send their clients to me to bring the subconscious into alignment with the work that they've done on the conscious mind. So they've taken the client as far as they can go on the conscious level and don't have full resolution. So they send them to me and I come in with the subconscious and we get that alignment, which gives inner peace.
That's beautiful. Actually collaborating with each other to bring an equilibrium, which is what I said similarly before, trying to be in some kind of peace, some kind of level together.
Yes.
And that works amazingly well. I suppose you found that actually brings in huge amount of results from that point of view.
Yes. So much so that they come in and get some work done for themselves.
Oh, really?
Because their patients
Buy one, get one free.
Their clients report back the change that they were able to experience, and so they'll make an appointment for themselves or their children to come and see me.
Okay, so you took on this path of doing this, and you took the education, you studied it well. And when you first started it, how did you feel when you started the practice and you started getting results? You knew it's something you always wanted to do. You knew it was from a situation you wanted to improve people's lives. But what was that moment when you saw, not only when you first started, but you saw the results when you helped that person or persons? What was that feeling? Go back to the time, that first few times, and how did that feel?
It feels like a magic trick. I used to make a joke, to myself. I would be like, "What's in this?" This kind of a thing. It was really gratifying to see people experience emotions like relief, release, and joy. And that feeling that there was a part of them that thought they would never be okay again, whether they were experiencing profound grief. I do a lot of grief work with my clients. And anytime someone feels that they're stuck and like they're fearful that this is the way it's going to feel for the rest of their life, they to suddenly find here is a solution. And every week that they come and see me, they're changing layer by layer. And to see that joy, it tells me over and over again that I'm in the right place and doing my calling, answering my calling to change the lives of others, especially really little kids who can't articulate necessarily what they need or what they're feeling. I had a teenage kid come in that was in a profound state of grief, had lost his father in a war, and wasn't really speaking anymore, and so traditional talk therapy wasn't working for him because he couldn't speak, he couldn't articulate what he needed. And he had 5 sessions with me, wasn't speaking during the sessions. But again, recognizing not only as a mother, but as an ADHDer who can see the patterns quickly, I just went through the sessions as though he had told me what I was imagining he needed. And then I spoke with his mother sometime later, and she said he has new friends at school, and he's talking, not a lot, but he is talking, and we catch him smiling at least once a day. And she said, I call that a miracle.
Right. So at that point, when she said we catch him smiling once a day, how did you feel?
I just so grateful to be called to this work, and honored to be a part of somebody's journey like that. That it's making change not only for the client, but potentially for future generations that come through that client. And I think about that from time to time about my own mother, that she didn't receive any therapy. I mean, back in those days, I mean, she was born in 1929. So back in those days, children didn't go to a therapist unless you were profoundly struggling. But life and death, that wasn't necessarily something that children got to have counseling for. So I think, gosh, I wonder what would have been different for her, because she also suffered from anxiety and depression. So how would her life have changed if she could have had a tool like this?
Like this. I hear you.
Yeah.
So let's find out more scenarios that this helps. So we understand this works for Greece. Grief. I said Greece. Grief. I'm supposed to be English, right? I'm supposed to talk English, but it's not happening today. Grief. So
yes.
Give us other scenarios it works for us, or it works for most things. I get it, but just put it in perspective. What other situations you've used to help people for?
We have a saying in the hypnosis business: if a problem caused by the mind can be solved by the mind. So anytime we have a blockage, fears, phobias, performance anxiety. So I do a lot of work with kids and teens who are athletes. And if whatever their sport is, I see more baseball players than any other sport, but I've worked with everything from competitive skateboarders to race car drivers, children race car drivers. Yes, they do that in America. Children racing cars. Soccer, you name it. All different sports. We work on the mind-body connection and the power of belief to succeed. And I work with executives, same thing, performance. So opening the mind to all the possibilities and letting go of any self-limiting beliefs that hold a person back. We can rapidly reprogram the brain. So when I'm working with kids, I'll say, imagine that your brain is an iPad and hypnosis is the app store. And we can download anything you want in your brain.
That's a great.
What would you wish for?
Yeah, that's a great way of actually putting it. And from a point of view, it makes them understand from that concept. Makes life so much easier. Right. Okay. So when it comes to hypnosis, you can use it for so many different things, and it's so flexible.
Yeah.
But How do you use it? How do you connect with your customers? Is it a situation that the customers are obviously one-to-one? Can you also do that online? Is that a possibility? How does that work? In what environment can you do this?
I have an office, and so I do see clients in person, but I also have clients all over that I have never met. We do it online, like through Zoom or Google.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah, just some earbuds. My voice is directly in your skull, and we work out the
That's
change that a
amazing.
person wants. Yeah,
Take
we
it.
go to the App Store and pick some programs for your brain, and then
You
we
know,
download them.
do you hear that, listeners? She literally does go to the App Store. she
Not,
does the
not
Zoom
the
thing.
literal App Store,
Oh.
but it's like that. Yeah, no, I work with clients who have anxiety, so they're already under a doctor's care, but they're just not getting the resolution that they're working for or looking for. So that's one that I see a lot of, and I do that online and in person. I also work with people who have been in treatment for PTSD with a medical doctor and a psychologist, but again, not getting the resolution. So we add hypnosis to their program, again, bringing the subconscious into alignment with the conscious mind. So in a PTSD situation, the subconscious mind has not gotten the good news that the danger has passed. And we have to basically just give that good news to the subconscious mind. The danger has passed. It's okay to turn off that fight or flight and still be safe. The subconscious mind doesn't like when I take out something without putting something in. So we take out fear and put in awareness. So it's like a cat, it's very aware. It looks calm. It is calm, but it is very aware. Its ears are listening, that the whiskers are sensing, and it's relaxed, but it is aware. So the subconscious will trade fear for awareness in case any future danger comes along. You'll be notified so you can take action.
Okay, so now just give us any other information we're missing about your business and what you do, how you do it, if you actually do it with groups or anything like that at all that we're missing. I give it to you. What do you want us to tell us more on that?
The majority of my work is one-on-one. I have done groups before, but most people have their kind of shopping list of things that they'd like to have resolved, and so they're better off to do it one-on-one. There are trance and non-trance techniques that I use. So one of the non-trance techniques I use is EFT or tapping. Many people are already aware of it. It's an older technique. It's been around for some time, and it has its roots in Chinese acupuncture. So we're not using needles on this one. We're simply tapping on meridian points that are underneath the skin. It's an affirmation-based technique to bring about change in the subconscious mind. But anything that's affirmation-based, the anxiety brain, or the neurodivergent brain does not do well with that. Something about affirmations, there's too many other possibilities. So the neurodivergent brain looks at possibilities, right? So if we say, I never this, or I am that, but you're not, the subconscious is going to catch that when you're divergent. So I created the course, Negative Thought Release, EFT for the Anxiety Brain, and it's hosted on Udemy. And it's specifically geared for the anxiety brain, because we have to make a couple of changes in order to get this wildly effective technique to work for a divergent mind.
Right. I'm glad you spoke about the course side of things. Is that the only course that you do for anxiety? Is there any other courses that you do?
So far, that's my first one, but there will be others. I had originally started this Udemy course was originally going to be geared toward women who consistently choose the wrong partner, and understanding how the past is influencing the subconscious mind in the present. It's hats off to people who have 4 or 5 courses on Udemy. That it is hard. Well, maybe not so hard for people who are very capable of focusing and sitting down and getting their work done. But for me, I found that hard. negative thought release course is 30 minutes long, and it took me a long time to complete it. So for the moment, that's the only one. The other course is probably going to be, 3 hours long. So that's
Wow.
gonna, you know what? I might need a partner to help me finish that one, because uh, I just can't seem to focus what it's going to take to help somebody who's not in front of me, who isn't telling me what their needs are. There's no pattern for me to look at other than the pattern of this particular group of people.
You'll find the partner. Now you'll find the partner. We've got to make it happen, and don't worry, I'll help you, because I know that's gonna help so many people, and you're the lady to do that. Come on, you can do that. And when's the book coming out?
Yeah, right. Thank you for that. Yes, I maybe instead of that course for women and understanding subconscious, maybe it's a book, because it's just a lot of information to be able to understand.
And it doesn't stop you from bringing out the book and the audio book at the same time. So people that have problems reading with neurodivergence in that way, you can bring the two out at the same time, which I think is which will help no ends. I mean, I'll be the first one. My hands is up. If you bring out the book, I'll even do the audio book if you want. I'll do that on your behalf. So.
Well, you have a nice voice.
Well, there you go. So I'm willing to do that. But anyway, for the sake of helping so many people, and I know we've got so much knowledge and passion to give over in that way to people, and I think it'd be a shame that you don't share it. Leave a legacy. Leave it down there for so many people to do. You've got so much to give and so much gold and quality to give out there. Leave your legacy, and I will be the first one that will buy that book, without a doubt. And yes, listeners, I'll even do the audio book too, if she asks me to. That would be fun.
Well, thank you for the encouragement and for the kind words. That certainly that warms my heart, and to think about going forward with that. I will recall that when I start thinking, I can't do this is too hard, all those self-limiting phrases that come up, I'll just remember what you've said.
And I'll say, Mona, I can hear you being negative. I'll be shouting across from the pond, and I'll say, come on, wake up. Yeah, stop. It's been 10 years now. Now, come on, this is ridiculous. That's what I'll be saying. But anyway, Mona, I want to speak, but I tell you what, it's time to put that line in the sand, and we have to say goodbye at some point. But before we do that, how do people contact you?
You can find me on Instagram. I'm Mojo Hypno, MOJOHYPNO. So you can reach out to me there, and I'm also online, mojohypnosis.com. And you can get in touch with me there and learn more about what I do and how it can help you.
And listeners, as always, I'll leave the information down below to make sure it's as easy as possible for you to contact her. You can see her journey. You can see why she does what she does, and she does it so well because she's lived the journey before she's got to the destination. And so this may be the lady for you to do what needs to be done to change your life. But in the meantime, Mona, thank you for your time. We really appreciate for the time you've given us. It is very precious, and thank you very much.
Thank you again for having me as your guest, and I hope we can get together again. This has been fun.
I think so, because I wanted to go through the rabbit hole a few times. And I thought, that's going to be part 2. That's going to be part 3, and that's going to be part 4. So
I'm here for it.
There you go. So, but we shall speak soon for sure. And listeners, we shall see you very soon. And sayonara.